The moment the little Tiffany blue box hit the judge's bench, it didn't sound expensive. It sounded heavy, like someone had dropped a secret, not jewelry. The snap of the lid echoed in the courtroom, and for a split second, even the gallery forgot to breathe. Judge Dana Royce didn't reach for it. She just stared at the box, then at the woman who placed it there with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no without consequences. "Miss Fairfax," Judge Royce said, voice calm but sharp. "People usually bring paperwork first. You brought a ring like it's a weapon." Madeline Fairfax, 37, sat perfectly upright at the plaintiff's table. She wore a white blazer so crisp it looked freshly purchased for court, soft glam makeup, and the kind of expression that said she expected the camera to love her. Her followers loved her, 500,000 of them, watching her quiet luxury lifestyle, her engagement content, her carefully staged coffee shots with captions about gratitude and grace. Across from her sat Rosa Alvarez, 42, owner of Alvarez Jewel Repair in Queens. Small shop. Family business. The kind of place that survives on trust and repeat customers, not brand deals. Rosa's hands were clasped around a manila folder like it was the last solid thing in the room. Her eyes were red, not messy crying, but the exhausted kind that comes from weeks of fear. Madeline was suing her for $21,750. Not just for the ring, but for emotional distress, professional harm, and lost sponsorship income. The kind of numbers people use when they assume pressure will make the other person fold. Judge Royce looked down at the claim and then up again. "Tell me what happened," she said. "And don't give me a monologue." Madeline inhaled like she was about to deliver a TED Talk. "Your Honor, I brought my engagement ring to Miss Alvarez to be resized. Simple, standard. I was extremely clear that this ring is sentimental and valuable. When I got it back, the center stone was chipped and the band was scratched. It was ruined." Rosa's mouth opened, but Judge Royce held up a finger without looking. "You'll get your turn," Madeline continued, voice perfectly tuned, hurt but dignified. "This ring is part of my brand. My engagement announcement, sponsorships, photo shoots, everything. I trusted her, and she destroyed it. Now she refuses to take responsibility." Judge Royce's eyes didn't widen. She didn't lean back impressed. She leaned forward slightly, the way she did when she smelled performance. "You say it's chipped?" "Yes," Madeline said immediately. "And before anyone says I did it myself, I didn't. I babied this ring." Judge Royce's gaze dropped to the Tiffany box. "How much is the ring worth?" Madeline didn't hesitate. $14,000. The gallery murmured. Rosa flinched at the number like it physically hurt. Judge Royce turned her head toward Rosa. "Ms. Alvarez, your turn." "What happened?" Rosa's voice was steady but strained. "She came in on a Friday. She wanted it resized down. She was in a hurry. I told her it takes a few days, and I have a policy for high-value pieces and take photos, condition notes, and client initials." Madeline rolled her eyes. Not dramatically, but just enough. Judge Royce caught it. "Miss Fairfax, if you keep reacting, I'm going to start thinking you're here to be right, not to be honest." Madeline stiffened. "I'm just frustrated, Your Honor." Judge Royce nodded once. "Try being sued for $20,000 when you didn't do anything? That's frustrating." Rosa swallowed and continued. "I photographed the ring on the counter in front of her. Multiple angles. I noted that there was already a tiny nick near the girdle of the stone and wear on the band. She signed the intake anyway. She picked it up on Tuesday, tried it on, said it fit, and left." Madeline snapped. "I didn't notice the chip in your bad lighting." Judge Royce's tone stayed even. "You noticed enough to try it on, correct?" Madeline's jaw tightened. "Yes." Judge Royce looked at Rosa. "When did she complain?" Rosa's voice dropped. 2 weeks later, I got an email from a lawyer. Demand for $14,000 plus distress and brand damages. She didn't call me first. She didn't bring it in for inspection. She went straight to threats." Madeline's eyes widened in fake disbelief. "Because you were dismissive when I messaged you?" Rosa shook her head. "You didn't message me. Your assistant did, from a private account, and it said, "Pay us or we'll post you." The courtroom air thickened. Judge Race's eyes lifted slowly. "Post you?" Rosa nodded, voice tight. "My shop got 1-star reviews." "A lot of them?" "People called and said they saw a video about me ruining rings. My teenage son got scared to walk to school because someone commented they hoped we get shut down." Madeline's expression flickered for the first time, not empathy. Just annoyance that the story had consequences. Judge Race looked at the claim again. "Ms. Fairfax, your lawsuit says the chip occurred during resizing. Do you have proof the ring was perfect when you dropped it off?" Madeline straightened. "Yes, I have my engagement photos." Judge Race nodded. "Bring them." Madeline slid her phone forward like she'd done it 100 times. Screen already open to glossy images. Close-ups of her hand, soft sunlight, her fiance's fingers. Beautiful photos. The stone sparkled. The background was blurred like a dream dot. Judge Race didn't look impressed. She looked suspicious. "Zoom in." Madeline's smile tightened. "Excuse me?" "Zoom," the judge repeated, voice flat. "In, on the area where you claim the chip is." Madeline pinched the screen. The camera zoomed. The diamond looked perfect until the image sharpened, and a tiny bright spot appeared at the edge. Not huge, not obvious in casual viewing. But once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Judge Royce tapped the bench lightly. "That's a nick." Madeline froze. "No, Your Honor, that's just light reflection." Judge Royce didn't argue. She simply turned to Rosa. "You said you had intake photos?" Rosa nodded and opened her folder with trembling hands. She slid out printed photos, clear, dated, close-up shots of the ring under proper lighting. Judge Race examined them one by one. Then she held one up, angled it so the camera could capture it, the same tiny nick dot in the intake photo. Before Rosa touched the ring, the courtroom made a sound quiet. Collective recognition, because the lie had just started to loosen at the seams. Madeline's voice rose quickly. "Those could be edited." Judge Race didn't blink. "Everything could be edited. But you know what's harder to edit? Your own signature." She slid the intake form forward. "Miss Fairfax, are these your initials next to pre-existing nick on stone?" Madeline stared down at the paper, then up at the judge, eyes bright with outrage. "I don't read every line of forms." Judge Race nodded slowly. "So you sign documents you don't read, and then you sue people based on what you wish you'd read." Madeline's lips parted, searching for a comeback that didn't sound childish. Judge Royce leaned back slightly. "Now, here's what I'm wondering. 2 weeks after pickup, you don't call the jeweler. You don't walk in. You hire a lawyer and demand $21,000. She paused. "Why?" Madeline's tone shifted, wounded, defensive. "Because she ruined something precious to me." Judge Race's voice stayed calm, but the temperature dropped. "Or because you saw an opportunity." Madeline stiffened. "That's offensive." Judge Race glanced down at the Tiffany box again. "No, Miss Fairfax. What's offensive is bringing a ring into court like it's a prop, when the paperwork says the damage existed before it ever entered the shop." Madeline swallowed. "The band was scratched too." Judge Race nodded. "We'll get there." She picked up another sheet from Rosa's folder, an invoice. "Resizing fee, $120. Madeline's face tightened like she'd tasted something bitter. "Yes." Judge Race looked up. "You're suing for $21,000 over a $120 service." Madeline's voice got sharp. "Because the item is worth more than the service." Judge Race nodded, then reached to her right toward a thick folder on her bench that neither party had brought. The kind of folder that meant court staff had done extra digging. Madeline's eyes flicked to it. Rosa noticed too, and her breathing caught. Judge Royce opened the folder slowly, flipped one page, then another, and her expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened like blades. "Miss Fairfax," she said, "before we talk about scratches, I want to ask you something very simple." Madeline forced a smile. "Okay," double quotes. Judge Royce's voice was soft, almost polite. "Is this ring insured?" Madeline's smile faltered just slightly. "Yes. Most people insure valuable jewelry." Judge Royce nodded once. "Good." She slid one document out of the folder and laid it face down on the bench, like she was giving Madeline one final chance to behave. Asterisk. Then you're going to explain. Judge Race said, why your insurance company contacted this court about a claim filed 3 days before you brought the ring to Ms. Alvarez. And the courtroom went dead silent because suddenly the question wasn't, did the jeweler chip a stone? It was this planned? Asterisk. Madeline's face held for a second like a mask with the straps snapping one by one. Then she tried to laugh light, dismissive. The kind of laugh influencers use when they're cornered and want to make the corner feel silly. That's impossible, she said. I didn't know. Judge Race didn't match her energy. She didn't argue with emotion. She pinned it with facts. Miss Fairfax, I didn't ask if it was impossible. I asked you to explain it. Asterisk. Madeline's attorney leaned forward, voice smooth. Your Honor, if there was communication with an insurer, it may have been a routine inquiry. Judge Race cut him off with a glance. Counselor, don't narrate your client's life for her. She can speak. Madeline drew in a breath, eyes slightly watery now, not from sadness, panic. I called to ask about adding it to my policy. That's all. Judge Race nodded slowly. Adding it. She flipped the face-down document over and read the header out loud. Claim filed, accidental damage. Description, stone chipped, band scratched. Requesting appraisal and replacement estimate. 3 days before you walked into Alvarez Jewel Repair. The room reacted like a single organism. Even people who didn't understand insurance understood time. Madeline's cheeks went hot. That must be a mistake. Judge Race stared at her. Is it also a mistake that the description matches your lawsuit word for word? Madeline's lips trembled. She tried to push forward anyway. I noticed the chip around that time. I panicked. I didn't know what to do, so I called insurance. Then I thought resizing might help, and Judge Race raised an eyebrow. Resizing might help a chipped stone? Madeline swallowed. I thought a professional could look at it. Judge Race nodded once, like she accepted the wording but not the intent. So you noticed the chip, filed an insurance claim about it, then brought it to the jeweler, then picked it up, approved it, and 2 weeks later sued her claiming she caused the chip? Madeline rushed in, because it was worse. Judge Race leaned forward slightly. Show me that it was worse. Not with your voice. With evidence. Madeline's hands shook as she opened her phone again. She scrolled too fast, then too slow, eyes darting, trying to locate the perfect piece of proof that would rescue her. Judge Race waited, quietly, patiently, like she knew the longer Madeline searched, the more likely she'd reveal something she didn't intend. Finally, Madeline held up a photo. Here, before. Judge Race motioned to the bailiff again. Bring it. The bailiff carried the phone to the bench. Judge Race studied the image, then zoomed, then swiped left without asking. Madeline stiffened. Your Honor, that's private. Judge Race didn't look up. You made your life public for money. Don't get shy now. She swiped again, then stopped on a video thumbnail. A bright pink background, loud text across the top, Bride Era Weekend. Judge Race tapped it once, but didn't hit play yet. She looked at Madeline. What is this? Madeline's throat bobbed. That's nothing. Judge Race's gaze stayed on her, steady as a weight. In my experience, when someone says nothing, it's usually something. Madeline forced a smile. It's just a weekend trip. Judge Race nodded. When was it? Madeline hesitated. I don't remember. Judge Race's voice turned slightly sharper. Read the date. Madeline's eyes flicked to the screen. 2 days after I picked up the ring. Judge Race looked up. 2 days after you approved the ring. 2 days after you left the shop satisfied. Madeline's lips parted. Judge Race pressed play. The courtroom filled with the sound of music and laughing, women cheering, glasses clinking. Madeline's hand was in the frame constantly, flashing the ring like it was the star of the weekend. The camera zoomed in and out, messy and real, not filtered carefully like her engagement shoot. Then, in one quick moment, Madeline slapped her hand down on a marble countertop near a champagne bucket hard. The ring struck the stone with a tiny, sharp tick that the courtroom could hear. Someone off camera shouted, "Girl, you're gonna chip it." Madeline laughed. "It's fine. It's insured." Judge Royce paused the video. You could feel the judge's patience thinning, not into rage, but into certainty. Madeline stared straight ahead like she'd left her body. Judge Royce looked at her. "You told your friends it was insured?" Madeline's voice was barely audible. "Lots of people say things jokingly." Judge Royce's eyes narrowed. "That didn't sound like a joke." Madeline snapped back, desperate. "That video doesn't prove anything. People hit their rings on counters all the time." Judge Royce held her gaze. "And then they don't sue the jeweler for the damage." Madeline's attorney stood slightly again, cautious. "Your Honor, even if the chip existed previously, there remains the issue of scratches on the band from the resizing process." Judge Royce looked at Rosa. "Did you scratch the band during resizing?" Rosa shook her head, voice tight. "No, Your Honor, the band already had wear marks. I noted it. I photographed it. She wanted it size fast, and I advised her that polishing would be separate. She declined." Madeline snapped, "Because I shouldn't have to pay extra to fix what she did." Judge Royce didn't react to the outburst. She simply turned another intake photo around so the camera could capture it. Faint scratches visible along the band. "Already present, Miss Fairfax," Judge Royce said. "These scratches are also in the intake photos." Madeline's face tightened. "These photos," Judge Royce cut her off, "are consistent. The damage you're describing existed before Ms. Alvarez touched your ring. Your own engagement photos show the neck. Your intake form reflects it. Your insurance claim reflects it. Your weekend video reflects you treating the ring like a hammer." Madeline's eyes glistened now. "I didn't mean for any of this." Judge Royce's voice stayed calm. "Intent is what we're about to talk about." She lifted a sheet from the thick folder. "Because the insurance claim isn't the only thing that brought my attention." Madeline looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Judge Royce flipped the paper toward herself and read, "Prior small claims filing Fairfax v. Lash Studio. Claim, damage to eye health. Settlement, confidential. Another, Fairfax v. Mobile Detailer. Claim, scratch luxury vehicle, dismissed." Madeline's mouth fell slightly open. Rosa stared at the bench, stunned, like she hadn't realized she wasn't the first target. Judge Royce's tone didn't change, but the implication was deadly. "How many times have you tried to turn a service dispute into a payout, Miss Fairfax?" Madeline shot back, voice rising. "Those were legitimate." Judge Royce stared at her for a long beat. Maybe you've learned that some people pay just to make you go away." Madeline's eyes widened. "That's not fair." Judge Royce nodded slowly. "Fair is earned." She turned toward Rosa. "Ms. Alvarez, did she ever offer to bring the ring back in for inspection before demanding money?" Rosa shook her head. "No, the first contact was a lawyer. Then the reviews started." Judge Royce turned back to Madeline. "About those reviews." Madeline blinked fast. "I left an honest review." Judge Royce lifted another sheet. "Not one review. 31 one-star reviews in 48 hours. Many using the same phrasing. That's not the public speaking organically. That's a campaign." Madeline's voice went sharp. "People support me. I can't control what they do." Judge Royce looked at her for a moment like she was deciding how gentle to be. Then she spoke quietly. "You can control what you direct." Madeline froze. Judge Royce tapped her pen on the folder once. "I'm going to ask you a question, and your answer will matter." Madeline swallowed. "Okay," double quotes. Judge Royce leaned forward. "Did you threaten Ms. Alvarez with your platform if she didn't pay you?" Madeline's voice came out quick. "No." Judge Royce didn't argue. She just slid one printed screenshot onto the bench and angled it toward the camera. A direct message from Madeline's verified account. "If you don't handle this privately, I'll have no choice but to warn people. My followers don't play." Madeline's eyes widened. "That's not a threat. That's..." Judge Royce cut her off. "That's exactly what it is." The gallery shifted, murmurs rising and then falling again under the judge's stare. Judge Royce's expression stayed controlled, but there was steel under it now. "Miss Fairfax, you didn't come here for repair costs." You came here with a story. Madeline's voice trembled. I came here for justice. Judge Royce nodded once. Then you're going to get something today. I'm just not sure it's the kind you wanted. She closed the folder halfway, then stopped like she remembered something. And there's one more issue, Judge Royce said. Eyes on Madeline. Madeline's face went tight. What issue? Judge Royce's voice dropped slightly. The appraisal. Madeline blinked. What appraisal? Judge Royce lifted another paper. The appraisal you submitted to the insurance company says this ring is valued at $14,000. But the jeweler's intake form lists a laser inscription number. Madeline's eyes flicked. Judge Royce continued, slow and precise. My clerk ran that inscription through a verification request. Madeline's voice cracked. You can't. Judge Royce didn't move. I can. And I did. She slid the final sheet onto the bench and looked Madeline straight in the eye. Miss Fairfax, Judge Royce said. Why does the manufacturer record show this stone was originally sold as a lab-grown diamond with a retail value closer to $2,000? And the courtroom didn't just go quiet dot, it went cold. Asterisk. Madeline's face changed in layers, first confusion, then anger, then something that looked like calculation. Like she was trying to decide which version of herself could survive this moment. That's wrong, she said quickly. That can't be right. Asterisk. Judge Royce didn't blink. It's a record tied to the laser inscription on your diamond. Numbers don't have feelings, Miss Fairfax. They just match, or they don't. Madeline's attorney stood, voice tight. Your Honor, lab-grown diamonds are still diamonds. Their value can vary. Asterisk. Judge Royce held up a hand. Counselor, the question isn't whether lab-grown is real. The question is whether she inflated the value and blamed a jeweler for pre-existing damage to try to collect money. Madeline's cheeks flushed. I didn't inflate anything. I have an appraisal. Judge Royce's eyes narrowed. From whom? Madeline hesitated. From an appraiser. Judge Royce's tone sharpened. Name. Madeline's voice got small. I don't remember the name. Judge Royce stared at her. You don't remember the name of the person who told you a $2,000 stone was worth $14,000? Madeline's throat bobbed. It was through my fiancé. Judge Royce glanced down at the paperwork. The fiancé whose name is not on the insurance policy. The fiancé who didn't appear today? Madeline snapped. He's working. Judge Royce leaned back slightly. Is he, or does he not know you filed a claim before you even dropped the ring off? Madeline's eyes watered again. This is turning into an attack. Judge Royce replied, calm and merciless. No, this is what happens when you come into court with a script and the other side comes with receipts. Rosa's hands tightened around her folder. She looked like she wanted to disappear, but she also looked like she was finally beginning to believe she wouldn't be destroyed by this. Judge Royce turned to Rosa. Miss Alvarez, how much did she pay you total? $120, Rosa said softly. Just the resizing. Judge Royce nodded and looked back at Madeline. And you demanded $21,750? Madeline's voice rose, frantic. Because she ruined my engagement? Do you know what it feels like when something that symbolizes your future is? Judge Royce cut her off. Don't make this about love. Make it about evidence. Madeline swallowed hard. Judge Royce tapped the insurance document again. Let's talk about your timeline. Claim filed, then ring dropped off, then ring picked up and approved, then bride era weekend, then demand letter. She paused. And I'm supposed to believe the jeweler did the damage? Madeline's mouth tightened. I didn't know it was chipped until after. Judge Royce lifted the engagement photo and slid it toward the camera again. Your own photo shows it? Madeline whispered. I didn't see it. Judge Royce replied instantly. But the insurance company did. The gallery murmured again. Judge Royce didn't care. She turned to a new page in the fic folder. Now, she said. About that bride era weekend 2 days after pickup. Madeline's eyes squeezed shut briefly. As if she could erase the video from existence, Judge Royce spoke evenly. You hit the ring against stone. A friend warned you? You said, it's insured, and you laughed. Madeline's voice trembled. I was drunk. It was a joke. Judge Royce stared at her. Your jokes are expensive. Rosa finally spoke, voice cracking. Your Honor, I had to borrow money to hire a lawyer. My landlord asked if we were closing because of the reviews. My son stopped answering unknown calls because people were calling the shop and leaving threats. Madeline snapped. I didn't threaten your child. Judge Royce's eyes turned sharp. But you lit the match? She reached into the thick folder again and slid out a printout and email chain. This is from a brand partner of yours, Skincare. They asked for analytics on your small business horror story post. Madeline's eyes widened. Let's not. Judge Royce read one line aloud. If this hits 300,000 views, we'll sponsor a consumer protection series. Madeline's cheeks went red. Brands reach out. That doesn't mean I lied. Judge Royce nodded slowly. So you monetized the accusation? You didn't just warn. You profited. Madeline's attorney shifted, clearly uncomfortable now. Judge Royce turned to Rose's attorney. Counterclaim? Rose's attorney stood. Yes, Your Honor. Lost business, harassment, legal fees. We have documented revenue drop and screenshots of coordinated reviews. Judge Royce nodded. How much are you asking for? 10,000, he said. Maximum in this court? Madeline's head snapped toward him. 10,000 for what? People leaving opinions. Judge Royce looked at her. Opinions don't come from 30 accounts created the same day with identical phrasing. Madeline's hands trembled. I can't control who reviews. Judge Royce didn't argue. She simply said, Bailiff, bring me the review report. Madeline froze. What report? Judge Royce's eyes stayed on her. The platform record? It shows clusters, referral sources, device signatures. You'd be amazed what can't control looks like when it's tracked. The bailiff approached with another envelope. Judge Royce opened it, scanned, then looked up. Her voice went quiet. Miss Fairfax? The IP cluster that posted 22 of those reviews is linked to a hotspot named Madeline Studio. Is that your device name? Madeline stared. No. Judge Royce held her gaze. Is it? Madeline's voice cracked. My assistant uses my hotspot. Judge Royce nodded slowly, like she'd heard this song before. Your assistant did everything. The threats, the reviews, the timing, the boosting. Madeline snapped, panic turning into anger again. Yes, because she was trying to protect me. Judge Royce tilted her head. Protect you? From a jeweler who resized your ring for $120. Madeline's lips parted. No words. Judge Royce turned another page in the report. Also, the post was boosted within 5 miles of Alvarez Jewel Repair. Madeline froze again. Judge Royce's tone stayed flat. That's not a general warning. That's targeted damage. Rose's eyes filled. She didn't wipe them. She just stared at the bench like she was watching her life being handed back to her piece by piece. Madeline whispered, I didn't mean to ruin her. Judge Royce replied, immediate. You meant to pressure her. Madeline's voice rose again, desperate. She should have just paid me. If she knew she was wrong. Judge Royce's eyes sharpened. Wrong about what? The chip existed before she touched it. Your own content shows you banging it on stone. Your insurance claim shows you knew. The lab-grown verification shows your value is inflated. Madeline's chin lifted with a last attempt at superiority. You don't understand how engagement content works. The ring is part of my livelihood. It's branding. Judge Royce leaned back slightly. I understand business. What you're describing is not business. It's extortion with a filter. Madeline flinched. Judge Royce picked up one more sheet. Now, we're going to discuss something you didn't think this court would find. Madeline's eyes widened. What? Judge Royce's voice dropped. A police report. Rose's attorney stiffened. Madeline's attorney went still. Judge Royce looked at Madeline. Your ring's inscription number also appears in a theft report filed 8 months ago in Westchester County. Madeline's mouth fell open. What? Judge Royce didn't react to the shock. The report lists the item as diamond ring, lab-grown, white gold band, same inscription, same specs. And the complainant is not you. Madeline's voice shook. That's impossible. My fiance. Judge Royce stared at her. So now we have two possibilities. Either the record is wrong, which is unlikely, or this ring changed hands in a way you're not being honest about. Madeline's face went pale. I didn't steal anything. Judge Royce nodded slowly. I didn't say you stole it. I said the number is in a theft report. Madeline's eyes darted, and the gallery could feel it. This was no longer about a jeweler. This was about Madeline's entire story cracking. Judge Royce folded her hands. Miss Fairfax, where did this ring come from, exactly? Not my fiancé, not a jeweler. Where? Madeline swallowed. It was purchased. Judge Royce's voice sharpened. From where? Madeline hesitated again, and that hesitation did more damage than any answer. Judge Royce leaned forward slightly. Because if you brought a stolen ring into a jeweler's shop, got it resized, then tried to claim damage for a payout, this court is not your biggest problem. Madeline's lips trembled. Your Honor, please. Judge Royce raised a hand. We're not there yet. She looked down at her notes and then back up. But we are close. And for the first time, Madeline Fairfax looked like she realized the courtroom wasn't a set. It was a trap. She walked into herself. Asterisk. Judge Royce didn't accuse Madeline of theft. She didn't need to. She let the possibility sit in the air like smoke, because smoke makes people talk. Madeline's voice was smaller now, stripped of influence or confidence. I don't know anything about a police report. I'm engaged. That's all I know. Judge Royce nodded slowly. Then you should have no problem telling me where the ring was purchased. Madeline glanced at her attorney again. He leaned in, whispering fast, too fast for comfort. Madeline pulled back like she wanted to seem independent, but she was drowning. It was from a private seller, she said finally. Judge Royce's eyes narrowed. Name, Madeline swallowed. I don't have the name. Judge Royce didn't blink. You don't have the name of the person who sold you the ring that defines your brand. Madeline's cheeks flushed. It was arranged through someone. Judge Royce leaned back. Through someone. Always through someone. And yet somehow you personally filed an insurance claim. Madeline's eyes flashed. Because I was stressed. Judge Royce replied, calm. Because you were preparing? Rose's attorney spoke carefully. Your Honor, may we address the theft report? We don't want to imply. Judge Royce held up a hand. I'm not implying. I'm confirming a match exists. That's it. Asterisk. Then she turned back to Madeline. Now, let's move from the ring's origin back to your behavior. You demanded money. You boosted posts. You triggered review attacks. You used legal threats. Madeline's chin lifted again, defensive. I was trying to protect myself. I'm a public figure. I can't just let people damage my reputation. Judge Royce's gaze went cold. Miss Fairfax, you damaged her reputation. Madeline snapped. She damaged mine by ruining my ring. Judge Royce leaned forward, voice quiet and lethal. Your ring was already chipped. Your band was already scratched. The only new damage I see here is the damage you caused to her business. Madeline's lips trembled. She tried a new tactic, victimhood. Your Honor, do you know what it feels like to wake up and see strangers calling you a liar? To be embarrassed online? I've been under so much anxiety. Rose's eyes filled again. My son asked me why people hate us, she whispered, barely audible. Judge Royce heard it anyway. Madeline looked away. Judge Royce's voice sharpened. Miss Fairfax, look at her when she speaks. Madeline forced her eyes up. But there was no warmth there, only discomfort at being made to acknowledge. A person she treated like an obstacle. Judge Royce continued, you want emotional distress damages. Let's talk about distress. She opened the thick folder again and slid out one final printed page text messages. Madeline's face went white. Where did you get those? Judge Royce didn't answer the how. She answered the why. Because your verified account messaged Ms. Alvarez after she didn't respond to your lawyer within 24 hours. Judge Royce read the first line out loud. Don't make me do this the hard way. Madeline blinked rapidly. That's not. Judge Royce read the next. I can post you tonight and you'll be done by morning. Rosa closed her eyes. Her shoulders shook once. She wasn't sobbing loudly. It was worse silent crying, the kind that means she'd been holding it in for too long. Madeline's attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, we object. Judge Royce cut him off without raising her voice. Overruled. Your client is asking me for money based on alleged harm. Her conduct is directly relevant. Madeline's voice shook. I didn't mean it like that. Judge Royce looked at her. How did you mean it? Madeline swallowed. It was a figure of speech. Judge Royce nodded slowly. A figure of speech that perfectly matches what happened next. She held up the review report again. Because that night, the one-star reviews began. Madeline snapped. I didn't post those reviews. Judge Royce didn't react. Your hotspot did. Madeline's eyes went wide. My assistant, Judge Royce leaned back, almost bored by the excuse now. Your assistant is apparently a criminal mastermind who does everything wrong while you do everything innocent. Madeline's face flushed with anger. You're mocking me. Judge Royce replied, No, I'm summarizing your defense. The gallery murmured again. Judge Royce silenced it with one look. She turned to Rosa's attorney. Do you have documentation of lost revenue? Yes, he said, stepping forward with spreadsheets and register reports. Average weekly revenue for 6 months, $9,800. Week after the post, $5,100. It took 3 weeks to recover. We also have calls logged and voicemail transcripts. Judge Royce nodded and looked at Rosa. Ms. Alvarez, did you do anything to provoke this besides refusing to pay her? Rosa shook her head. I offered inspection. I offered to send the ring to a gemologist at my cost. I begged her to stop. She wouldn't, Madeline whispered. I was hurt. Judge Royce looked at her. You were greedy. Madeline flinched as if slapped. That's not true. Judge Royce picked up the lab-grown verification again. You claimed $14,000. The record indicates closer to $2,000. Your insurance claim was for accidental damage. You filed it before you came to the jeweler. Then you tried to make the jeweler the cause, so you could collect twice, once from her, once from insurance. Madeline's voice rose, shaking. I would never do that. Judge Royce tilted her head. Then why file before she touched the ring? Madeline's eyes filled. Because I panicked. Judge Royce replied, You panicked with paperwork? Madeline tried one last time to regain power, chin lifting. Your Honor, you don't understand what it costs to maintain credibility online. If I look careless, brands leave. People judge. I needed someone to fix this. Judge Royce stared at her for a long beat, then said quietly, You needed someone to pay for it. Madeline's lips parted. About to protest, Judge Royce continued. And then you walked in here with a Tiffany box like a prop, expecting the court to feel sorry for you. Madeline's voice cracked. Because it's my engagement ring. Judge Royce answered, Then treat it like one, not like a business strategy. Madeline's attorney tried again, careful. Your Honor, at minimum, Ms. Alvarez should be responsible for the resizing quality. Judge Royce cut him off. The resizing is not the issue. The ring fit. She approved it. She left. Then Judge Royce glanced down at her notes, and her tone shifted into something heavier. Now, she said, about the theft report. I'm not ruling on theft, but I am not ignoring a matching inscription on an item connected to an insurance claim and a lawsuit. Madeline's face went pale. Please don't. Judge Royce lifted her hand. I haven't decided what I'm forwarding yet. Madeline looked like she might faint, then caught herself in hardened anger creeping in again, like a survival instinct. This is unfair. You're treating me like I'm guilty. Judge Royce leaned forward. You're treating yourself like you're guilty. You lie fast, you explain slow, and you blame everyone but yourself. Madeline's eyes flashed with that familiar arrogance, the one she couldn't fully kill even now. You're acting like you understand my life. You don't understand how high-profile engagements work, how diamonds work. Judge Royce's voice cut in, calm and final. Stop, Madeline froze. Judge Royce's eyes were steady, cold. Do not come into my courtroom and tell me what I understand. Madeline swallowed. Judge Royce leaned back, looked at both parties, and said, "I've heard enough." The courtroom went still again. The kind of stillness that happens right before a verdict lands and changes someone's life. Judge Royce aligned the documents on the bench and take photos. Insurance claim, lab-grown verification, review report, threatening messages, and said quietly, "Miss Fairfax, you came here asking for $21,750. She paused. "You may leave owing money instead." Madeline's breath caught. Rose's hands tightened. Eyes wide, like she was afraid to hope. Judge Royce looked down one last time, then lifted her gaze and spoke with that unmistakable finality that meant no more performing, no more spinning, no more escaping. "I'm ruling now," she said. Judge Royce didn't slam a gavel. She didn't need to. The verdict was in her voice, steady, precise, and completely uninterested in Madeline Fairfax's tears. "Miss Fairfax," she began, "your claim is dismissed." Madeline jerked forward. "What?" Judge Royce held up a hand. "Be quiet. I'm speaking." Madeline's mouth closed, but her eyes burned with disbelief and anger, the kind that comes from someone who truly expected the world to bend. Judge Royce continued, "You failed to prove Miss Alvarez caused the chip or scratches. The intake form notes pre-existing damage. The intake photos show it. Your engagement photo shows it. Your own video shows you striking the ring against stone while saying, 'It's insured.'" Madeline's face tightened. "That doesn't." Judge Royce's tone sharpened slightly. "It means you knew. And you proceeded anyway?" Madeline's breathing became shallow, visibly panicked. Judge Royce turned one page in her notes. "You also demanded replacement value that does not match the manufacturer verification tied to the laser inscription. The evidence indicates you inflated the ring's value." Madeline's attorney started to stand. Judge Royce looked at him, and he sat back down like his body made the decision for him. Judge Royce moved on without drama. "Now, Ms. Alvarez's counterclaim." Rosa's breath caught. Judge Royce looked directly at Rosa. "Ms. Alvarez, you documented your work. You offered inspection. You attempted resolution. You did not provoke this." Rosa nodded, tears finally falling, silent and relieved. Judge Royce turned back to Madeline. "Miss Fairfax, you escalated immediately to legal threats and a public campaign. Your verified account message threats. The post was boosted within a 5-mile radius of Miss Alvarez's shop. The review spike is linked to your hotspot device name." Madeline's voice broke. "I didn't do those reviews." Judge Royce cut her off. "Your hotspot did. And I don't care if you blame an assistant. You are responsible for what you set in motion." Madeline whispered, "I can delete everything." Judge Royce stared at her. "You already collected the views?" Then she delivered the number cleanly, like a door closing. "Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $9,200. Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. Madeline jolted. $9,000? Judge Royce didn't flinch. $6,000 for documented lost revenue and reputational harm. $3,200 for harassment-related damages and legal costs directly tied to your threats and coordinated attack." Madeline's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed sharp. "I can't pay that." Judge Royce's response was instant. "Then stop trying to live a life you fund by bullying working people." Madeline shook her head rapidly, desperate now. "You're ruining me." Judge Royce leaned forward slightly, voice low. "No, you tried to ruin her. The difference is she didn't deserve it." The gallery was silent, no clapping, no cheering, because this didn't feel like entertainment anymore. It felt like watching a lie collapse in real time. Judge Royce looked down at the final stack of documents, and her voice turned colder, more official. "I am also forwarding the insurance claim timeline, the questionable appraisal. The threatening messages and the theft report match information for review by the appropriate authorities." Madeline's face went completely still. "No, please." Judge Royce didn't soften. "You should have thought of please before you typed 'you'll be done by morning' to a woman who was just trying to earn a living." Madeline's attorney whispered urgently to her. Madeline didn't even respond. Her eyes were locked on the bench like she was watching her life detach from her. Judge Royce turned to Rosa, and her tone softened just enough to feel human. Ms. Alvarez, keep doing what you're doing. Keep documenting. And don't ever let someone with followers convince you they have more power than the truth. Rosa nodded, crying openly now. Thank you, Your Honor. Judge Royce nodded once. You're welcome. Then she looked back at Madeline, final and unsentimental. Miss Fairfax, you are dismissed. Leave. Madeline stood too quickly, papers slipping, hands shaking as she shoved the ring box and phone into her bag, like hiding them could undo what happened. She didn't look at Rosa. She couldn't, not after the court heard the threats and saw the campaign laid out like a map dot as she walked out. Her heels sounded different, faster, lighter, scared. Rosa sat down slowly, like her body didn't trust the danger had passed. Her attorney leaned in and whispered, "It's over." Rosa stared ahead, tears still falling. "I thought we were going to lose everything," she whispered. "I thought no one would believe me." Judge Royce, already stacking papers, heard her anyway. "People believe evidence," she said. "That's why you keep it." Outside the courtroom, the story didn't spread because of Diamond's dot, it spread because people recognized the type. Clips circulated of Judge Royce saying, "You panicked with paperwork, and your jokes are expensive," and the line that hit the hardest, "You already collected the views." Madeline's engagement content started getting stitched by strangers who zoomed into old photos, circling the mic that had been there all along. People pulled up the bride-era video from her posts. Brands quietly removed her from campaigns. Comments flooded her pages, first angry, then mocking, then suspicious, as people wondered how many other warnings she'd posted were really just pressure tactics. Rosa didn't post anything. She didn't need to. Her customers did it for her. A week later, Alvarez Jewel Repair had a line out the door. Not because people suddenly loved resizing rings, but because they wanted to support the person who almost got crushed and didn't fold. One elderly woman came in with a chain that needed fixing and told Rosa quietly, "My husband used to say the truth is slow, but it arrives." Rosa smiled through tears. It arrived. And that was the real ending. Not a viral takedown. Not a meme. Not a catchy quote. A small business surviving an attack it didn't deserve. A judge refusing to be impressed by a Tiffany blue box dot and an influencer. Learning too late that a courtroom doesn't care about your aesthetic dot. It only cares what's real.